My name is Tracy Manning, and I'm the Church Buildings Officer dealing with conservation casework for the Cathedral and Church Buildings Division. I'm a trained wall painting conservator. I provide advice and guidance on the conservation of historic interiors for churches and provide support to our conservation grants programs. In this presentation, I will talk about how the faculty consultation process works, what it is we can offer, and why the conservation of historic interiors matters. Conservation in churches is unique. This is because all of the historic objects, fixtures, and fittings are in situ, often in the place they were made for, and they're still in use. We all know that churches are not museums, and they can't offer a museum environment. Historic stained glass windows still have to keep the rain out. Medieval fonts are still used for the purpose they were made. Brasses set into the floor are often walked on. Silver plate may still be in use during services. So this presents us with a challenge when it comes to conserving them. For the conservation, alteration, disposal, introduction, movement, or removal of special historic items, faculty is required. According to the Faculty Jurisdiction Rules 2015 and 2019 as amended, it is mandatory for the parish to consult the Church Buildings Council as part of the faculty application. It is also worth noting that the listing of the building only applies in the case of introduction of an item. For conservation, alteration, disposal, or movement of an item, it relates only to the item itself. And this is important because sometimes special objects are found in churches that are not listed. So what does special interest really mean? I will try to show you some examples of the huge range of objects that we find in our churches. The range is endless. Here are a few examples of the range of materials that we see. First is an easel painting, and these can be on canvas, wood, or metal. Organs, timber work, which can be something like this, which is complete furnishing of a church from the 17th century, or individual items such as timber chests, effigies, pews, and choir stalls. Turret clocks and carillons, or unusual experimental materials like these fiberglass windows in Bristol by John Piper. Monuments and effigies in stone, alabaster, timber, very often with remains of original and later paint. This also includes ledger stones set into the floor and external churchyard tombs, many of which are individually listed. It also includes bells, bell frames, books and manuscripts, or even entire parochial libraries like this one at Tiverton, and large wall painting schemes. Establishing what is of special interest can be obvious or can be more challenging, and that is where the parish's statement of significance and input from DAC advisors, the DAC, and the Church Buildings Council can all be important. Advice from CBC can also help with grant funding for any conservation work, which my colleague John Webster will talk to you about. In order to give advice, the Council has 6 specialist committees that it relies on, made up of 54 specialists, and these are architects, conservators in a range of fields, historians, and curators. So when a faculty application comes through to us, we can consult with them, and they provide advice to us that we pass on to parishes, DACs, and chancellors. They also contribute to our grants programs. Many DACs have their own specialist advisors, but in dioceses where that specialist knowledge is not there, because of course it's not possible to have a specialist in every field, we are available to fill that gap and help provide specialist advice if it would be of help. Some dioceses have arranged to share a specialist advisor with another, which is something you may want to consider. If you're looking to recruit a new advisor, do get in touch with us to see if we might be able to help. So why is it important to look after the objects in our churches and monitor their condition? As they are often the most fragile items in a church building, their condition can be an early indicator of more serious problems. They will respond to change more quickly and dramatically than the building itself. For example, at this church on the left, Its poor condition meant that the parish wished to repair the flaking paint and make it look more presentable. But why is it flaking so dramatically? A leaking downpipe behind the monument caused the paintwork, which is oil-based, to detach. The first step in conserving the monument will be repairing the downpipe and making sure it's working at an appropriate capacity so that it doesn't leak again. Then, and only then, the conservation of the monument can start. On the right, elements of this important 16th century monument were splitting apart, making the monument dangerous and structurally unstable. In this case, a project team was established, including the parish, architect, and various specialists. A structural engineer established that there was severe subsidence in the side chapel. A plan was drawn up for dismantling and conservation of the monument whilst major works were carried out to the floor and subfloor. After this was completed, the monument was rebuilt independent of the wall. In both of these cases, the severity of the building defects may not have been noticed as quickly had the damage not been evident in the monuments themselves. When looking at damage in our fragile fixtures and fittings, it's worth thinking about the underlying reasons for the damage before treating the symptoms. What about when a parish wished to introduce change and there are vulnerable objects in the church? In this case, the parish of this tiny medieval church in Gloucestershire, with a highly significant wall painting scheme, wished to improve their heating. But they knew they had to be careful with such a fragile setting. What came to the DAC as a heating proposal became a major project for the conservation of the wall paintings, because a proactive DAC and a committed parish decided to commission an environmental survey of the building so that they could understand how it was functioning before stabilizing the paintings. Now, as they move towards introducing heating, they can monitor it carefully and understand the implications of any changes they make. I'd just like to also touch on the issue of contested heritage, which I'm sure you'll be familiar with as it has been in the public eye for some time now, and will touch all of our work at some stage. Janet Berry, our head of conservation, has been leading on producing our guidance on this subject, which I encourage you all to have a look at. You may all be familiar with the Rustat Memorial at Jesus College, Cambridge, which gained a lot of attention in the press. This is the extreme end of the spectrum, where the person commemorated was under scrutiny, and not all cases will be like this, nor will all come to consistory court. We have had cases where inscriptions on grave markers or imagery in paintings or textiles were found questionable. Should a case come your way where a parish is concerned about a potentially contentious item, or if they need advice producing interpretation within the church, this guidance is designed to help work through that process. The Church Buildings Council is also appointing a new committee to help advise on these cases, which should all be assessed individually on a case-by-case basis. Do contact Janet directly if you have any case you wish to discuss. And just quickly here, for conservation advice, we have short downloadable leaflets on the conservation of many types of objects, like the ones I've talked about today, available on our Church Care website. There's also information available from Historic England and from ICON, the Institute of Conservation. To find a conservator, it's best to refer parishes to the Conservation Register, administered by ICON. There are also accredited lists for organ builders and clock repairers. And finally, our contact details. Please don't hesitate to contact us should you need advice, and we'd be happy to help. Thank you.